Hello everyone, and so recently I've been trying out a new sunscreen foundation, and this is from Jane Iredale, and it is called the Skintuition Foundation, and it is medium coverage, and it has an SPF of 30. And so this has caused me to think about all of the other sunscreen foundations that I have tried in the past, and to try out a few more of those. And so in this video I will be discussing 16 different sunscreen foundations, and all of these rely solely on either zinc oxide or titanium dioxide as the sunscreen ingredient. None of them have any chemical sunscreens, and none of them have any chemical sunscreen boosters. And so first, a little bit of information about me. I am 60 years old, and I have dry and very sensitive skin. And so one thing that I have found over time is that there are certain ingredients that always do irritate my very sensitive skin. And I know that these are the same ingredients that tend to be very irritating for many other people as well. And so I just don't talk about products with those ingredients on this channel. And I do have a new Facebook group that I started a month or two ago, and that is called 40 Plus Beauty with Lisa Petrison. And so I've been really enjoying getting to know some of the people that subscribe to this channel over there in that group. And so if you are on Facebook, then I hope you will join us over there. Now, when we're looking at SPF foundations, many of the ones that are labeled as being mineral-based actually have chemical sunscreen boosters in them. So here is the list of the ones that do have those boosters in them. And sunscreen boosters are chemicals that are essentially exactly the same as chemical sunscreens, except that they have never been evaluated by regulators. And the most common of these are butyloctyl salicylate, tridecyl salicylate, and ethyl ferulate. And all of these chemicals do irritate my skin a whole lot, and so I will not be discussing products with these boosters in this video. And so for this video, I did find 16 foundations that do have mineral SPF in them and that do not have any of these chemical sunscreen boosters in them. And there are a few other products on the market that I haven't tried, but I have tried most of the ones that are out there that I think people are tending to consider. And so before we get started, I just want to talk a little bit about the whole concept of using a foundation with an SPF in it. As you may know by now, to get the SPF that is on the bottle, you would need to use 2 milligrams of the product in question per square centimeter of facial skin. So for the average adult human, that would be 1/4 teaspoon of product. And virtually no one, except I guess Meredith Duxbury, who is on TikTok, would even think about putting this much foundation on their face. Typically, people use only about 1/4 of this amount at most when they're applying foundation or skin tint. So, for instance, the new Jane Iredale foundation is suggested to be used at 1 or 2 pumps of the product. And it took me 8 pumps to get to 1/4 of a teaspoon. And so even if I use 2 pumps, which is actually a lot more than I would be inclined to use, it would only be SPF 8, if that. Now, I'm not a person that thinks that everyone needs to be wearing SPF 30 or SPF 50 on their face every day. I think that how much SPF people may decide to wear on a particular day may depend on a lot of different factors, including how bright the sun is, and how dark their skin tone is, and how long they are going to be in the sun, and whether or not they're going to be wearing a good hat. And so for me, there are times, even during the summer, when I'm not going to be in the sun very much, and when I'm going to be wearing my SPF 50 hat with the wide brim that does provide a lot of shade whenever I am in the sun. And so therefore I may feel that I am going to be protected from the sun pretty well without needing to use a sunscreen. But that nonetheless, I wouldn't mind having a bit of protection in the form of a nice SPF foundation if I can find one that would look good on my skin. So I think that there are a lot of variables here, but it definitely is the case that if people are going to be getting enough sun that they are wanting to use a sunscreen with a higher level of SPF, that just using an SPF foundation by itself is very likely not to be anywhere near sufficient. And so let's talk first about the new Jane Iredale foundation, and then we will move on and talk about the other foundations and tinted moisturizers. And so the Jane Iredale Foundation, this one is called the Skintuition Foundation, and it is SPF 30, and it is $56, and it is based on a non-nano zinc oxide, and the level is 15.6%. And one thing that I will say is that it does seem like there is some new kinds of zinc oxide that have been released that are not supposed to be nano versions, but that do seem to be more transparent and that do seem to be less thick and white and chalky on the face. And in a lot of cases, I have been liking the sunscreens that are out there that contain those. And I do think that based on my experience with this Jane Iredale product, that does include that kind of new fangled zinc that I think is working a little bit better than the old kind. So I was happy to see that. And this is a foundation that includes some silicone-like ingredients, and so it does perform a little bit like it's a silicone foundation, in my opinion. And some of the skincare ingredients that are in this include sodium hyaluronate, apple extract, sunflower oil, and jojoba oil, and it's made in the U.S. And this is described as being a medium buildable liquid foundation that naturally perfects for a healthy skin-like finish. And so there are 26 shades of this foundation, and I did spend quite a lot of time trying to figure out what kind of shade I should pick, and I feel like I did not do a very good job because I don't feel like this is matching my skin very well. And so I picked out one that is called 28 Light, and that one is supposed to have neutral undertones. And I did feel like this would probably be a bit too dark for me when I ordered it, but I picked this one out because it was supposed to be neutral, and I do feel like usually my skin tone is neutral. But what I do find is that this particular foundation is considerably more dark and also considerably more yellow than my actual skin. And so now that I know that this is way too yellow as well as way too dark, I think that I would have probably been better off maybe with 20 Light, which is cool pink undertones, and usually I think that that might be too pink for me, but it looks like that might be a much better shade. And I do think that the photos of the models are not very helpful in there, unfortunately. And what I will say is that I think that a lot of the reason that this shade is so problematic for me is that this foundation is a much higher coverage foundation than I realized it was going to be when I purchased it. So this is stated as being a medium coverage foundation, and I would say that it is definitely a strong medium and that it is hard to get it to be lighter coverage unless you actually mix it with something else, and you're not really supposed to do that, I don't think, if you have an SPF product. And so if you're someone that prefers a light foundation or maybe a light to medium foundation, then I think that this foundation may be on the higher coverage side. And certainly I think it would still look a lot better on me if it were the right shade, and I might actually think it looked good on me, but it definitely is the case that it's giving quite a lot of coverage. And so especially since it's not exactly the same color as my skin tone, I think it's really, really obvious that I'm wearing foundation when I put this on. And so despite the fact that this is not exactly the right shade for me, I do think that it's performing pretty well in terms of how it looks, in terms of the wrinkles and the other texture on my face. I think that especially since it is so high coverage, it's actually looking fairly nice on me. So that part is good. And so again, I think if I had a better shade with it, it might actually look quite nice. And I do think that this takes quite a lot of time to dry down. It does have some oil in it. And so I do think that using some kind of a setting spray or a powder or maybe both of those things together may be helpful with this one. And so with this, I did put on a little bit of the Makeup by Mario setting spray, and I think that was helpful with that. And then I did put on sort of a full face of mostly Jane Iredale makeup, and I did talk to the people at Jane Iredale, and I sent them a photo of myself applying the foundation, and so they did say that they were going to send me a couple of samples of other versions of the product, apparently ones that are going to be more pink and less yellow. And so I will do a video when I get those and show you those so you can see the 3 different shades in comparison to one another, and then they will send me a new bottle of the one that works for me the best. So before we move on, let's just talk a little bit about the other liquid foundations that Jane Iredale offers. So there is one that's called Dream Tint that I'll be talking about in a few minutes in this video, and that one does have SPF in it. There is another foundation that Jane Iredale was offering that was supposed to be medium coverage, and that one was called Glow Time, and I did try that one out and it didn't work for me. And actually, when I looked on the Ulta site, that was one of the lowest rated products on the entire Ulta site, and so apparently a lot of other people were not very happy with that product either. And I do think that this new product of theirs is much, much better. And then in addition, they have a couple of other foundations that do not have any SPF in them. So the first one is called the Beyond Matte Liquid Foundation. That one is $52, and it was released several years ago, I think. And so that one does have several kinds of silicone in it. And my experience with that, and you can see in the video footage, I think that this goes on pretty wet. I did use a setting spray with that, and that helped a little bit. And I feel like with this one, it was emphasizing the texture on my face and my wrinkles quite a lot. And so when I have compared that to the Skintuition, I think the Skintuition is much, much better. And so foundations have come a long way over the past 5 years, and I think you can definitely see it in the fact that this new product from Jane Iredale is not only including SPF, but it's actually looking better than the old formula that didn't have the SPF in it. And the product from Jane Iredale that I have used the most is this one, which is called the Jane Iredale HydroPure Tinted Serum. This one is $58. And this is similar to some of the products that are made by Chanel. And so it has a clear serum in it and then little balls of pigment. And it's also somewhat similar to the Rose Incorporated product. Now, I think that this one is a little bit sheerer than any of those products. And there are only 8 shades of this, and so for me, I haven't found there to be very much pigment in this at all, but I have found this to be a very nice product in terms of how it looks on my skin and in terms of what it does for the texture of my skin. And I also think that my skin does seem to like this quite a bit, and that this serves really as an excellent primer if I want to put something down on top of it. And then a very similar product that Jane Iredale has is the Jane Iredale HydroPure Color Correcting Serum. And so instead of having flesh-colored balls in here of pigment, instead it has light green balls. And so the idea is that if you have reddish skin that is not looking very healthy and is looking a little bit irritated, that if you take this green color corrector and you put it on top of it, then that can mute that out and make it look a little bit more natural looking without it looking like you have a lot of foundation on. And again, like the other product, there's no silicones in this, and it has the same kinds of good skincare ingredients in it. And what I have found with this one is that I really do need to put this on with a stiff brush, and in particular a brush that is sort of designed to put on this kind of foundation, because if I don't, then I will end up with little balls of green pigment on my skin, and my skin will look blotchy and a little bit weird. And so what I have had to do is to take a brush like this one, and this is the Rose Incorporated brush, so it's actually the one that is designed to work with the foundation like this, and I will put some of this green stuff on the back of my hand, and then I will mash it up with the brush until the pigment balls are broken up, and then I will pick this up and put it on my skin with this brush. And I do think the brush sops up a lot of the foundation, and so when I do this, I think at least half of it actually ends up in the brush, and I do need to wash the brush after I do that. But I do think that it works pretty well, and again, like the other product, I think that it looks very nice on my skin, and I think that it has a very nice texture on my skin, and I do think it dulls down the redness in terms of irritation that I may be having. And it was good for me to be using it at this point in the video footage because this was right after I had put on a few of the other foundations that I'll talk about later on in this video. And some of those did irritate my skin a bit. And so putting that green color corrector down at that moment in time I think was a good thing, especially since my skin does like this formula. And so now let's move on, and we will start by looking at a comparison between the Jane Iredale Skintuition product and a foundation product that was released last year by another one of my favorite companies, and this is RMS. And so this product is called the RMS SunCoverup Super Tint. It is SPF 50 if you were to put on a whole quarter teaspoon of it on your face, and it is $49. And so this does have a new form of zinc oxide in it that is not nano, but it actually does not reflect white. And so this is not a formula that is as high coverage as the Jane Iredale one. It is supposed to offer fairly sheer coverage. And for that reason, there are only 13 shades. And it does look a little bit on the heavy side when I first put it on, but then when I rub it into my skin and rub it in with the brush, I do think that works much better and that it ends up looking quite nice on my skin. And one issue that I have had with this particular product is that I don't think there is really an ideal shade for me. So the shade that I ended up purchasing is the lightest shade, and this is called Alabaster. And the reason that I purchased this shade is because I saw several videos with people that have skin tones that are fairly close to mine. So I'm thinking, I remember specifically Sophia Sees Beauty and Dear Eva Hansen. And all of them, I think, had multiple shades sent to them by RMS. And all of those people have skin that is usually the same shade as mine in terms of the foundation shades that they choose. And what they all said is that they felt like this particular shade, which is the Alabaster one, was too light, and that the next shade up, which I think is called Ivory, that one was too dark for them. And I have seen them mixing the shades that they have into being a good shade for them. And I'm not all that crazy about having 2 bottles of foundation around and then needing it to mix it up. And so I haven't actually purchased a second bottle of this. And this Alabaster one, it is kind of on the light side, and every time I put it on my skin, I blanch a little bit because I think that it's going to be way too light for me. But then by the time I rub it in, it just only looks a little bit too light, and it's something that I feel like I can correct really easily by using a bronzer and a little bit of blush. And so I do think that this is a wearable foundation for me, and I do think that I look nice in it when I do wear it, but I think that it would be nice if they were to add a few more shades, and that there are quite a lot of people that need something that's between those 2 lightest shades, and I'm sure that there are some people that don't do well with the darker shades that have darker skin also. I did ask the RMS people which shade they thought that I should get. And one person on one occasion said Ivory, and then another person said Cameo, which is supposed to be a light medium. So I would think that that would be too dark for my skin, but it may be that that has more of a peach type look to it, and that it would be more in keeping with my undertone. But in any case, I think that I can make do with the shade that I have here. Now, I think that it would be also possible to take this foundation and to mix a little bit of liquid bronzer into it, and I think that that would darken it up enough that that would be actually a really ideal shade also. Now, typically, you're not supposed to take products that have SPF in them and then mix other things into them unless they've already been tested. So, for instance, Drunk Elephant has said that they have mixed their bronzing drops into their sunscreen and that has worked fine. And so they are encouraging people to actually do that. But for other companies that haven't done that testing, I'm not sure that you would get the SPF value from it if you mix other stuff into it. Now, I'm not really that concerned usually about the SPF that I'm getting, and it wouldn't be a disaster if I didn't get the SPF protection from it because I'm always wearing my SPF hat anyway. But nonetheless, I have not tended to experiment so far with mixing things into this RMS foundation for that reason. And so in terms of the beneficial ingredients of this product, it includes some coconut oil derivatives, shea butter esters, glycerin, bisabolol, jojoba oil, olive oil derivatives, squalene, niacinamide, quinoa seed extract, licorice root, and some various Ayurvedic herbs. And this is made in the USA. I do feel like my skin does like all those kinds of ingredients. And so when I put this on my skin, I I'm always expecting, I think, for it to perform less well than it does because it's not the right color and because it does always look a little bit thick when it goes on. But I think that my skin does really like it a lot, and I do think that it looks good on my skin. So it's always been a good experience. And they are saying that this is providing lightweight, breathable coverage that effortlessly even skin tone for a naturally radiant complexion. And I do think that that is the case also, and that even though this is not even exactly the same color as my skin, that nonetheless it does look really, really natural when it's on my skin, and I don't feel like it looks like I have a lot of foundation on. But I think it still does even out my skin a bit, so I'm really happy with the way that it has been performing. So I wouldn't say that this is my favorite foundation that I own, and the reason for that is because I feel like the foundations that I really, really like are ones that I think are offering a little bit of blurring on my face, and that not only are covering over imperfections, but also are making my face look a bit plumper and a bit more youthful looking. And so if I wanted to pick my very favorite foundation to look really good, this would not be the first one on the list, but I don't think it makes my texture on my skin look worse. And in general, I think it looks very nice on me. And I think that when we look at this video comparison, I do like the side of my face that has the RMS on more, but again, that's not offering very much coverage. And so if I had skin that had more problems and more things that I wanted to cover up, then I would still lean towards using a light foundation and then some concealer at my age. I think that that tends to work better for me. But it is the case that I think if you want a medium coverage foundation, then the Jane Iredale is a quite good one. And I think it's looking pretty good even in comparison to the RMS one. And I think that if I had the right shade in the Jane Iredale one, as hopefully I will soon, that that would be looking even better. And so now let's move on and talk about Chantecaille. And Chantecaille introduced a new version of their tinted moisturizer with SPF last year. And so this is called the Chantecaille Just Skin SPF 15, and it is $70. And the lighter shades in this do include enough titanium dioxide for it to be considered to be a sunscreen. The darker versions of this do not. And the video footage that I have is the one that I used in my recent video where I talked about the reformulation of the Future Skin product. And so you can see the Future Skin product on one side of my face and the Just Skin tinted moisturizer on the other half. And I think that both of these are good foundations. The tinted moisturizer is just a bit thicker, and I think that it does provide a little tiny bit more coverage than the Future Skin. It is less expensive, and I think it's slightly less refined on the skin, but I think it's a very, very pretty foundation. And to my eyes, it does look an awfully lot like the Jones Road foundation especially. And so both of these Chantecaille foundations are silicone foundations, and the Just Skin, it includes glycerin and then a number of different botanical ingredients. And so these ingredients are ones that do the same kinds of things as, for instance, the sodium hyaluronate that's in other kinds of formulas. And so this includes some duckweed in it and some other various extracts. And it includes alumina, and that is an ingredient that EWG is a little bit concerned about, and I haven't had problems with that. And it also has elkhorn sea moss in it, and that did make me a bit nervous because, again, that's a sea ingredient that could be contaminated conceivably with cyanobacteria, but at least in terms of the bottle that I got, my skin liked it just fine, and I haven't had any problems with it irritating my skin at all. And this has actually turned out to be one of my favorite foundations, especially for use during the summer. And so in general, I tend not to do as well with silicone foundations as I do with other foundations. Usually I do feel like in this case I've done really well with this particular silicone foundation, though. I feel like it has gone on my skin pretty easily. It's felt pretty good. I feel like it's been pretty breathable for me and that it's come off pretty easily, but it's also stayed on when I need to have it staying on, even when I am going out and sweating. But then at the end of the day, when I just use regular old makeup remover like a cleansing balm, it will come off pretty easily. So in general, general, I've been very happy with this. Now, this is only SPF 15, so I certainly am not expecting to get very much sun protection from this because I am not using that much of it. But I think that it is performing so well that if I am already going to be wearing my hat, which I actually always am when I go outdoors during the sunnier parts of the year, that adding just a little bit of sun protection is not something that I mind too much. Now, whether or not this product actually has more SPF protection in it than many other foundations, I'm not sure. I do think that many foundations that are out there do have enough titanium dioxide in them that they would qualify as being an SPF 15, which is the lowest SPF that you can get, and put it on the bottle if they were actually tested. But it's quite expensive to test a foundation for SPF, and so I think in a lot of cases companies just don't bother to do that at all. So I'm not really purchasing this product or using this product because it has SPF 15 in it, but I do think that's a nice little bonus. And so now let's move on to the next video footage. And so in this video footage, I am putting the Bare Minerals Original Pure Serum Foundation, SPF 20, on one side of my face. And then on the other side of my face, I am putting the Saie Slip Tint SPF 35. And so this Bare Minerals product, this is actually the product that I am wearing today. And so you can take a look at the video footage that is closer up, and you can see how you think it is holding up after I have been filming for a while. And so this is a product that was released, I think, 2 years ago. And I didn't buy it when it first came out because I think I was doing something else at the time. And then by the time I found out about it and I heard other people review it, I did hear some negative reviews about it from people, mostly from younger people who had reviewed it. And so I decided that it wasn't really a priority for me to buy right away, and then I kind of forgot about it. And only when I was working on this video and I wanted to make sure that I had tried out all of the Bare Minerals products that had SPF in it did I realize that this even existed. And so I did buy a bottle of it just because I wanted to give it a try. And I was a bit surprised at this, and I have found that this is kind of similar to a few foundations that I've actually kind of liked in the past. So one that it reminds me a bit of is one that Kosas used to offer. And so this was a really kind of a thin skin tint that kind of goes on the skin, very moisturizing and very light, and is supposed to be sort of a casual, comfortable, all-natural type of foundation. And I realized that that is what this is supposed to be too. And so basically what it consists of is a lot of moisturizing type ingredients, a lot of oil type ingredients, and then basically pigment or dirt. So it's a very unusual type of formula in that not very many foundation companies are actually offering things like this. So the only one that I can think of that is anything like this is the one from Ritual Defy. And that one, I tried their lab sample, and I actually did kind of like it, but then when they reformulated it, something happened to it, and it irritated my skin like crazy. So I actually found when I put this on finally a couple weeks ago is that I've actually really kind of liked this. And I do think that especially for people that have really dry skin, and maybe even for people that have more mature skin, this is not a bad product. And I think it's working well on my skin, just probably because it does have such a high percentage of oil in it. So what they are saying is that it mostly has coconut oil derivatives in it, and then some of the other ingredients include glycerin, jojoba esters, vitamin C, sodium hyaluronate, and water lily extract. And it is supposed to be ideal even for sensitive skin, they say, and it is supposed to have 93% skincare ingredients. And it's supposed to have an SPF of 20. If you were to put a quarter teaspoon on, I put a much smaller percentage than that on my skin. And they say that it has a natural radiant finish and that it's clinically proven to improve skin smoothness in 7 days. And so what they are saying is that you should be expecting that it is going to actually be helping your skin to look better in general. And so what I will say with this product is that I think that it's really important not to put too much of it on. So if you're looking for a buildable coverage foundation, I don't think that this is the one that I would recommend. My feeling with this one is that if I put too much of it on, it starts to turn into something that looks like a mask. And so I do want to put enough of it on to begin with, and then to rub it into my skin, and then to use a brush to brush it into my skin so that my skin is absorbing it. But even when I do it like that, sometimes if I have used too much of it, I feel like there's still too much of it left on my skin. And sometimes I've actually taken like a paper towel and just kind of pressed it into my skin and removed whatever excess foundation there was on the surface. And I think that it looks a lot better when I do that. And I think this is one of those kinds of foundations that you could wait for a couple hours and then your skin would absorb all of it, but I'm a little bit too impatient to wait for my foundation to look good. I want it to look good when I'm done with my makeup. And in general, I think that this actually looks nice on me. I'm not sure that it makes me look younger, but I don't think it looks bad at all, and I don't think that it emphasizes the texture on my face nearly as much as many other foundations do. This is a foundation that I feel like, at least on my skin, I don't really need to powder it, or I certainly don't need to put very much powder down. In the video footage, I am putting on the Polite Society powder, which is an oil-absorbing powder, on both sides of my face, but I think that for this particular foundation, it works better if I put on a lighter powder that doesn't absorb oil so much. So for instance, today I put on the Kosas powder that is loose, that's a pink one, and I think that that one actually works better with this. So a light powder seems to work better than a really heavy powder, because even though this does have a lot of oil in it, I don't feel like it looks so greasy that it needs to have a powder sucking up that oil. But in terms of the finish of my skin, I think that this is actually very nice, and I think that it does give me a little bit of coverage if I want to cover over redness or just a little bit of blotchiness or anything like that. And so overall, I do like it a lot, and I actually am willing to wear this one, and I've enjoyed wearing it on the occasions that I have tried it out, and I think I'm going to keep that one in a fairly accessible place because of the foundations that I'm trying on today. I think that one may be the one that I'm most likely to wear, and maybe even more so than the RMS one. I think the RMS one definitely has a sunscreen advantage to it, and with that SPF 50 in it, I think that if you put on even a small amount of the RMS foundation, you may be actually getting some legitimate coverage. With this one, I don't really think I'm getting very much sunscreen coverage, but I do think this is such an easygoing product, and my skin does like it enough that it kind of makes me want to wear it. And it doesn't have silicones in it, so that is more attractive to me than a lot of other foundations. And the shade that I purchased in this one is Fair Neutral 1.5, and I think that that has been fine for me. I think it's slightly darker than my skin, but I think it looks fine on my skin, and it looks pretty natural, even like I just have a tiny hint of a tan. And then the product that I'm putting on the other side of my face is the Saie Slip Tint SPF 35, and this one is $38. And this one has been out for several years, and I have tried this in several different other videos, and I think this is a product that I'm fairly comfortable with. It does have a higher SPF than a lot of the other products. The SPF is 35, and so there is some potential there for you to at least get some coverage in terms of SPF, even if you just put on a reasonable amount of it rather than the full quarter teaspoon. And the other thing about this product is that it does not really have very much pigment in it, and so if you want to put on a bit more of it, at least it wouldn't have so much pigment that you wouldn't be able to do it. So this has non-nano zinc in it, and the level is 15%, and the moisturizing ingredients here include coconut oil derivatives, grapeseed oil, argan oil, sodium hyaluronate, jojoba esters, some fermented ingredients, glycerin, bisabolol, aloe, licorice root, and acacia gum. And this one does not have any silicone in it. And this is available in 14 shades, and the shade that I have is 3, and I think that this has been fine for me. And what they say about this product is that it provides just enough coverage to even your complexion and give you an easy no makeup look. Now, my feeling about this one is that it is rather shiny and rather heavy. And I feel like with this one, I definitely need powder, and that a powder that is a bit oil absorbing seems to be working much better. So that is why I chose the powder from Polite Society, because that one does absorb oil a little bit more. And even after I put that Polite Society powder down on top of it, I still feel like it's a bit more shiny than I would like. I could keep putting more powder on it maybe, but in general, I think that this foundation does tend to be heavier and shinier than would be ideal for me. But it is providing a lot of sun protection, even probably if you don't put on the full amount of it, and so that may be attractive for some people. Now, one thing that I will note is that I have read some reviews of people who have tried this product from Saie along with the Saie sunscreen that they also make, and I don't feel like those reviews have been really good. And I do want to get a hold of the Saie sunscreen and give it a try, so I will try it in combination with this when I do that. But in general, you would think that Saie was making these two different products, and so they should work together, but I'm not sure that's exactly what they have in mind. But in terms of how it looks on my skin, despite the fact that it does have that heavy feeling to it and it does look kind of on the shiny side, I don't think it's emphasizing my texture a whole lot. And I think that it is a product that I am willing to wear, and I haven't found it to be irritating for me. And so if this is what I had and I wanted to wear a little something to protect myself from the sun in addition to my hat, then this might be one that I would be willing to use. And then the next foundations are actually two different foundations from a company that is called Suntegrity. And so I was happy that they are offering samples of these products on their website for a small fee. And so I ordered a variety of different product samples from them, including some sunscreen samples and these two tinted moisturizer samples. And so the first one is one that is being sold on Credo. And this is called the Suntegrity 5-in-1 Sunscreen Moisturizer SPF 30, and it is $48. And so this includes non-nano zinc, 20%, and so it does include a pretty large amount of zinc. And it has, in terms of the ingredients that are good for your skin, it has aloe vera, coconut oil derivatives, jojoba oil, sunflower oil, pomegranate oil, astaxanthin, and sodium hyaluronate. And astaxanthin is an ingredient that I am pretty fond of, because this is a supplement that I take, and I have found that when I take this supplement that my vision started to get better right away, and that I was starting to feel like my vision was a bit cloudy and that I was going to have to think about the potential for cataract surgery, which I really would like to avoid. And I did feel like that got much, much better almost immediately. And my husband actually tried that supplement also, because he was thinking about that he was going to have cataract surgery. And he said that he thought it was really good for him too. So I am always happy to see this in a sunscreen formula also, because I do think that in terms of the benefits when you put it on your skin, I think that there may be some good benefits with regard to that too. It's supposed to be an antioxidant that absorbs really easily, and that's why it gets into the eyes. And so I think it may be good for the skin as well. And there are 4 different shades of this particular product. There is fair, light, golden light, and medium. And I have the light shade, and I think that that shade seems to be fine on my skin. And so if I were going to buy it, I would go ahead and pick that one up. And they are saying that this is a product that you can either wear as a primer and then you can put makeup over it, or it will give you just a little bit of coverage on its own. And so what they say is that this multitasking BB cream renews, hydrates, primes, and protects while delivering flawless coverage. And this is giving a light amount of foundation coverage. So I was a little bit suspicious of this because it is a clean beauty product and because the only place that I had seen it was on the Credo website. But I've been more impressed with it than I thought that it was going to. I think that it was perfectly fine on my skin, and in terms of the ingredients that are in it, it does seem to do really well in terms of at least what Credo thinks of it, and I don't see any ingredients in it that I would be concerned about. And I also think it looks pretty good on my skin, better than I would have anticipated. It is light coverage, but I don't feel like it is exacerbating the look of my wrinkles, and I think it looks nice on my skin. And the couple of times that I wore it, in terms of using this little sample, I think that it performed fairly well, even when I was outside walking my dog and things like that. And I'm happy that it doesn't have any silicones in it. That is my preference with regard to foundations, usually, is not to use ones with silicones. And all in all, I think that this was a pleasant surprise, and so this is one that I would consider buying. It is a bit on the expensive side, but you are getting a fairly large amount in the container. And then more recently, this same company came out with another product that is somewhat similar to the 5-in-1 product, but that is more of a real foundation rather than just a light skin tint. And so this is called the Impeccable Skin Sunscreen Foundation. It is SPF 30, and it is $58. And so again, this has non-nano zinc at 15%, and so this one has most of the same ingredients as the 5-in-1 product. I don't think it has astaxanthin in it. And this one is available in 7 shades, and so a couple of those shades are more appropriate for at least somewhat darker skin. And they are saying that this medium coverage formula is enriched with vitamins, peptides, and antioxidants to nourish and protect your skin while offering a smooth, even finish. Free of oils and silicones, it visibly reduces the signs of aging, produces broad-spectrum SPF protection, and shields your skin from damaging blue light exposure. And this one says that it has peptides in it, but when I look at the ingredient list, I'm not sure which of those could be a peptide. And when I asked an AI program, Pi AI, which one of those ingredients was a peptide, Pi was confused also. So I'm not sure what they're talking about with regard to the peptides. But I do think that some of these other ingredients that are in here are very nice for my skin, and I don't mind putting this product on at all. And I do have the wrong shade in this one, so the lightest shade that they had available in the samples in this one was tan, and so that one certainly is a couple of shades too dark for my skin, so I apologize for that. But even though it's definitely the wrong shade for me, I don't feel like it's exacerbating the texture on my skin that much. And so I do think if I had the right shade, it would look a lot better. I do think this one is a lot shinier than the other one, and so I think that because it has all of those oils and things in it, it really is much more in need of powder. Certainly it's much more in need of powder than some of these other products that I've been trying on. And this one only seems to be sold on the Suntegrity website. I don't even see that at Credo, or at least not yet. So in general, I would say that if people are looking for a foundation that is more like a medium coverage foundation with some sun protection in it, that this one would be a possible alternative to the Jane Iredale Skintuition one. And I think that this one's actually nice, but it certainly is pricey. It's just as pricey as the Jane Iredale one. And then in the next footage, I'm going to be comparing 2 more foundations, and actually ones that I think are a little bit similar to one another also. So the first one is the Veronique Everyday Coverage Tinted Sunscreen, and I'm going to compare this to the Iris and Romeo Best Skin Days. And so Veronique is a skincare company that offers a variety of products that have all natural ingredients in them. And the good thing about Veronique in general is that all of their products do have really, really high quality oils in them. And so that is the reason that they are so expensive. The downside is that a lot of those oils do not last very long, and that they do have the tendency to go rancid. And so if you buy anything from this company, then I think it's really important to try to use it up really, really fast, like within 6 months or so, because they do have the potential of going bad, and they are so expensive that it's kind of a tragedy if they do go bad. And so this company sells primarily through their own website and then through a couple of other high-end skincare retailers. And so for this particular sunscreen, I think this is mostly just sold through their website. And so this product includes 3 different shades. They just have extra light, light, and medium. And actually this does not have the shade name on the bottle, so I think that's a little bit peculiar. But my recollection is that I used the light shade of this. And this is $60, so this seems really expensive, but I will say that there are 2 ounces of product in here, and so it is not quite as expensive as you might think, especially if you're comparing it to some products, like, for instance, the Jane Iredale product, which only has 1 ounce of product in their bottle. And so in terms of the oils that are in this product, it includes sunflower oil, jojoba oil, apricot kernel oil, meadow foam seed oil, glycerin, raspberry seed oil, allantoin, sea buckthorn oil, and carrot extract. And so with all that sunflower oil in there and also that raspberry seed oil, I do think this has the potential of going bad quite quickly. And so I think that if you're going to be purchasing this, then it should be at a time when you're probably going to be using it frequently, because otherwise it would be a waste to have a product this expensive go bad. And this is made in the U.S., and they say that this is a zinc oxide only sunscreen, safe for the whole family. And they also say that it has a non-greasy, feather-light texture that sets to a natural demi-matte finish and has been designed as a light layer to wear over your face oil. It provides sheer to light coverage and diffuses redness. And so Marie Veronique does encourage people to use their face oils on their skin, and so they are saying that this product works best if you put it on over your face oil. And in this video footage, I didn't put it on over a Marie Veronique face oil because I didn't have one around at the time, but I did put it on over the product that I have from Sarah Creel that is called Moisture Source. So that is a elixir that has some oil in it, and I do think that that is providing a good base for this kind of makeup on my skin. Now, this does have some fragrance oils in it, and specifically it has cistus oil and immortal flower oil. And these may be oils that not everyone would react to, but I do think that my skin is slightly annoyed by this particular product. And so for me, I probably will not be keeping this one, and I think I will send it on to my friend, because I think if I keep it for much longer, it probably will start to go bad. So I kind of think this is a little bit similar to the Bare Minerals product in terms of the concept. Basically what we have here is a lot of oil and some pigment and not much else. And for whatever reason, I think that the Bare Minerals product seems to be more successful for me. For this one, I think that it is also not looking really that great on my skin. I think it's definitely exacerbating the texture of my skin, and I think you can see the pigment that go into my fine lines on my skin, and so I don't really think this one works all that well for me. And even worse, this one tends to look a lot worse for me as the days goes on. So the video footage that I happen to have here is from right after I put on the foundation, so you can see what it looks right away. But I do feel like when I've worn this one and I've gone out and spent time in the sun, when I come back, my face is sort of a wreck. And so that makes me somewhat disinclined to use this, even though it is natural ingredients, and even though if it didn't have those essential oils in it, that my skin might like the other oils that are in the product. And then the other product that I'm trying on in the video is this Best Skin Days from Iris and Romeo, and so this is SPF 30, and it is $48 for this jar. And this has a level of zinc oxide in it that is 21%, and it also has coconut oil derivatives, silicone, glycerin, sunflower oil, jojoba esters, sodium hyaluronate, vitamin C, moringa oil. And so in terms of the basis for the product, it does have kind of a mixture of a lot of oils and some pigment and some moisturizing, hydrating type ingredients, and then also a small amount of silicone. And this is sort of the most unusual product that I've ever seen, because even though I've used foundations in jars before, I've never used one where I could turn the whole jar upside down, and it's really just in this like it's a paste. and so it is quite thick, and I think that it goes on better than I would have anticipated considering how thick it is, but I still think it's really not doing my skin any favors. And then the other issue with this product for me personally is that it includes rose oil and rose extract in it. And even though I really like the smell of roses, my skin does not like rose oil in terms of being irritated by it. And so I did find this particular foundation to not be great for my skin and to cause it to get red and irritated. And so for that reason, I wouldn't be using it. Another ingredient that's in this is the alumina, and as I say, EWG does not like alumina, and I think they're giving it like a 7 or an 8 now, but I have not found alumina in other products to necessarily be a problem for me. And so this product is made in the USA, and there are 12 shades, and what they say is that this is makeup plus skincare plus SPF in one easy step that gives natural coverage, hydrating, glowy finish, and protection against UVA and UVB and blue light. And they are claiming that this should be a natural glowing look and that it is delivering light to medium buildable coverage. And so my experience with this one is that it did exacerbate the look of the texture on my face a lot, and that it also did not really hold up that well when I was outside. So I put this on both sides of my face so you can compare it to one another, but I think that neither one of these is very good options for me. And in terms of the finish, it's a little bit odd because even though it's so dry, it actually had a somewhat shiny look in my opinion before I put down some powder. And so I think it looked a little bit better after I put down the powder in terms of the shininess, but I think it's very, very hard to, on my mature and wrinkly skin, I think that this is really just not a good product for me. Now, I have heard a few people that are younger than I am who have thought that this product was okay, and so I think that if I didn't have quite so many wrinkles and other kinds of issues like that on my face, I might do better with it if it didn't have that rose oil in it, which is the other issue for me. And the shade that I have in that one is shade 2, and I don't think there was anything wrong with the shade. I thought that was fine. And so the next product that we have is one that is from Tarte, and I am actually putting this one on both sides of my face. And so this is called the Tarte BB Blur Tinted Moisturizer SPF 30, and it is $42. And this one comes in 15 different shades, but they do have a travel size, and that is the one that I got. And so it comes in this little tube, and there are 5 shades available in this travel size, and it is $18. And the shade that I got was shade Fair, and I don't think that this is a bad shade for me. I think that the shade part was fine. And so this is a foundation that just has titanium dioxide in it and no zinc. And actually, when it comes to how foundations look on my skin, I do feel like oftentimes the ones that just have titanium dioxide in them do tend to look nicer on my skin, and I think that that may be why this one is performing fairly well for me in terms of how it looks. This is a silicone-based foundation, and it actually does have a cyclic silicone in it, which is called cyclopentasiloxane. So my understanding is that this particular ingredient is being phased out of Europe because it has been deemed as being particularly problematic for the environment, more so than other silicone products. I don't know if that's actually the case, but maybe Tarte doesn't sell that much in other countries like Europe. I am not sure about that, but this one does not seem to be reformulated. And there are some other Tarte products, I think, that also have some cyclic silicones in them still. And so I'm not seeing a lot of skincare ingredients in this one. It does have some diamond powder in it. I don't notice it as being specifically sparkly, but I do think that it is looking pretty nice on my skin. And I think that it actually feels fine on my skin and probably better than a lot of the products that I've used that has cyclic silicone based or just silicone based in general. I think it's been working okay. And what Tarte says about this product, they are claiming that this has medium buildable coverage with natural matte finish, and they say that this blurs pores and doesn't crease, and they say that it is creamy and cloud-like, 12-hour makeup, feels weightless, helps with textured skin, and that you can wear alone for more sheer coverage or under makeup. Now, I don't quite understand why they're saying that this has medium buildable coverage. Maybe what they're saying is that you have light coverage and it's buildable to the point where it's getting approaching medium. And I think that might be more like the truth. I think that even after I put on 2 layers of this, I still don't feel like I had as much coverage as the Jane Iredale product, but I do feel like you can get some coverage with this. And I think that for me, I don't wear silicone-based foundations all that much, but I think compared to other ones that I've tried, it hasn't been too bad. I don't think that my skin has objected to this, and I think it's looked fairly nice on my skin. I don't think it exacerbated the texture of my skin too much. And so I have had pretty good experiences with some other Tarte products in the past as well, particularly their foundation products. And so even though that is a brand that I don't talk about a whole lot, I think that this is a brand that by and large, when I try products from them, as long as they don't have ingredients like scent in them that are problematic for me, I think that by and large, they're okay. It's very rare, I think, for me to find a Tarte product that I think is the best in category, that I would recommend people buy in preference to something else. But I think a lot of their products are pretty good, and I think that this one would fall into that category. And then next we have the product that is supposed to be the #1 tinted moisturizer on the market, and this is the Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue SPF 30, and this is $39. And so I have tried this product a number of times in the past, and I actually did a whole video on this product a couple of years ago, and then I've talked about it in some of my other foundation videos and demonstrated it. And so this product does have a number of moisturizing ingredients in it. It doesn't actually have a lot of oil in it, but it does have ingredients that I think are really good for the skin. And so those ingredients include squalane, trehalose, glycerin, agar, a fermented ingredient, hyaluronic acid, and then some coconut oil derivatives. And this is made in the USA, and it includes 20 shades. And so what they say about it is that this is a 3-in-1 multitasker that is a moisturizer, skin tint, and it has SPF 30 with hyaluronic acid to boost hydration for a dewy, healthy-looking glow. And this one only has titanium dioxide in it, and I think that it's easier to make a foundation that just has titanium dioxide in it that looks decent on my skin and that doesn't exacerbate the look of my wrinkles. And so I think that this one actually has performed well for me in terms of how it's looked on my skin. And I think that it has a kind of a natural finish. I think it's not as glowy as a lot of the foundations that are out there. It's certainly not as glowy as, for instance, that Saie foundation, which was the main competitor for this until recently. And I think it's comfortable on my skin. I didn't object to wearing it, and I think that that was a product that I chose quite a bit for a while. And this is an older product, and I do think it exacerbated the look of my wrinkles slightly. So I think that things have really come a long way in terms of foundation quality over the past 5, 6, 7 years since this one was introduced. But in general, I do think that this is not a bad product, and I would be willing to use it again if I had a bottle of it. And then next I'm going to compare 2 products that have scents in them and that I think are fairly similar in a lot of respects. And so the first one is the other product from Jane Iredale that has an SPF in it. And so this one is called Jane Iredale Dream Tint, and it is tinted moisturizer, and the SPF on this one is 15. And so the product from Jane Iredale, this one does just include titanium dioxide, and this is 4.5%, and it just has an SPF of 15, and so that is a fairly low SPF. So we're not really expecting to get very much coverage in terms of protection from the sun from this one because that SPF is so low. And like the Skintuition foundation, this one does include non-cyclic silicones in it. And then in terms of the skincare ingredients, it includes jojoba, esters, and oil, sunflower oil, and shea butter. And it does include some ingredients in it that I think have the potential of being irritating and that were irritating to my skin. I think that that is what caused the irritation. And these include lavender oil, algae extract, and grapefruit seed extract. And there are 7 shades of this, and the shade that I have is medium light. That you might think that that would be too dark for me, but I think that it is such a sheer foundation that it would be fine, and that it was fine. And the other thing about this foundation, I really don't like the scent of this one. I think that it is really not that appealing to me in the same way that the Beauty Counter one is, and it's also irritating. And because it has that silicone in it, I guess they are saying that it is water resistant up to 40 minutes. And I'll have to say I haven't worn it for long enough to be able to test anything like how well it holds up when I'm sweating a lot, because it just was too irritating for me to proceed and really evaluate it in that way. And they are claiming that it gives a soft focus effect that helps to minimize the appearance of fine lines and enlarged pores. I don't think that it is making my skin look better. I wouldn't say that, but I don't think it's making my skin look much worse either. I think that it is a very light coverage product. It doesn't have very much sunscreen in it. And so I think that it looks fine. And I actually like the finish of this one considerably more than the Beauty Counter one because it is not as glowy. But on the other hand, again, I'm not getting much sun protection from this. I'm not getting much coverage from this, and I'm not sure that it's making the texture of my skin look better. And so even if it weren't irritating my skin, I kind of am not sure what the point is. And then the other one is from a company that is now called Counter. And this was originally Beauty Counter, and it was launched by a woman named Greg Renfrew, and it was fairly successful as an MLM company. I think that as far as I have found out from digging into it a bit and from talking to representatives of the company, I didn't feel like it had as many abuses as many MLM companies. Most of the money that was being taken in was either going to the corporate or it was going in commissions. There wasn't a lot of money that was going to uplines. And in addition, I think that a lot of the products from Beauty Counter I actually really, really liked very much, and especially their skincare products. And this company went away for a whole year. The people that purchased it decided that it wasn't making enough money, and so they shut it all down, and they sold all of the components of the company back to the original owner, and her name is Greg Renfrew. And so I am happy to see them back on the market again. And so to my understanding, Beauty Counter is going to be using the same kind of a structure that they were before. When they were first launched, they are going to be having representatives, and the representatives are going to be getting a chunk of the proceeds for the products that they sell. And if you recruit someone to be a salesperson, then you are going to get a very small amount of it. And so this Tinted moisturizer, this is the old formula from Beauty Counter, but it is now called Counter Just Skin SPF 20, and it is $50. And so this is based on zinc oxide, and the level is 14%. And then it also includes some silicones in it, and these are not cyclic silicones. And in terms of the skincare ingredients, it includes sodium hyaluronate, black currant seed oil, and vitamin C. And the issue for me is that it does include some fragrance ingredients in it, and so these include rose oil, bergamot oil, orange peel oil, and orange flower oil. And I think I could tolerate the orange flower oil and the orange oil maybe, but that rose oil is definitely a deal killer for me. And so this is one of the products that I tried on that did irritate my skin when I was filming this video footage. And this is made in the US, and it includes 8 shades, and the shade that I have is shade number 2, and I think that this shade was probably fine for me. And what they are saying is that this formulation delivers immediate luminosity through sheer glowy coverage and skincare benefits. And my feeling about this product in terms of the texture is that it is very shiny and very dewy, and that it really doesn't seem to dry down even if I leave it for a while. And so I think this is one that definitely needs powder for me, and when I used the more oil-absorbing powder, which was the Polite Society powder on this one, I think that it looked a lot better. And so if it were not irritating for me, then I think that I could wear it, but I definitely feel like it needs powder. And I think that the smell is actually really attractive. I really like rose oil and I really like citrus oils. And so if we're just talking about how the product smells, I think that that is fine. But for me personally, those ingredients are just irritating. And the other issue about this product, of course, is that it is not providing very much SPF to the skin, so it only has an SPF of 20, and so I would not want to put very much of this on my skin, especially since it is so dewy and glowy, and so I'm really not expecting this to be providing much sun coverage at all. I really would just be using this as just a tiny little bit of a hint of coverage, so I wouldn't say that this is that great for that reason, because I don't really feel like I like the finish that much. Maybe that was more popular a few years ago. And I think that it doesn't look terrible in terms of exacerbating the look of the wrinkles on my skin, but I don't feel like it's providing much foundation coverage either. And so I kind of feel like with this one is that even if it didn't have that skin irritation thing, I kind of feel like I'm not sure what the point of putting this on my skin would be. And now let's move on to our last two foundations, and these are both from Bare Minerals, and they both are matte products. So these are not really products that are intended for people like me, I don't think. I think that these products are intended for people that are a lot younger than I am, and that do not have as much texture, and that do not have skin that is dry like mine. And I wasn't interested in actually purchasing these, but I did happen to get a sample kit from Bare Minerals for not too much money that they had a little while back, and it had several different kinds of foundation samples in a few different shades, and so I have been able to try out both of these products on a few different occasions. And so the first one is from Bare Minerals and is called the Barepro Natural Matte Liquid Foundation. It is SPF 20 and it is $40. And so I got this little sample of it. And this one includes several different kinds of silicone in it, and all of those are non-cyclic silicones. And then it includes non-nano zinc oxide, which is 6.2%. And so for this foundation, they are claiming that this is a clean, skin-improving 24-hour foundation that provides an undetectable, full coverage matte finish and ultra comfort wear. Now, they say that this is full coverage. I think that this is more like a medium coverage. I would say that it's similar to, for instance, the Jane Iredale Skintuition. But I do think it's much higher coverage than most of the Bare Mineral products or just most of these SPF foundations that I've tried. And in terms of the skincare benefits, this one has pomegranate extract, glycerin, coconut oil derivatives, and it is made in Italy. And so they sent me two different sample shades, and so one of those was Fair 15 Cool, and one was Light 27 Cool, and I feel like one of those was lighter than I would like, and one of them was a little darker than I would like. So I just used a mixture of those in the video footage. And I don't think that the shade is bad for me. I think that those were not bad at all. And so my feeling about this one is that it went on fairly nicely, and that it was a little bit dry, and that very quickly in the video footage you can see that it does exacerbate the look of my texture and wrinkles considerably, so that is a negative thing. And I would say that as time went on that got much worse, and that even within an hour or so that my skin was looking much worse, and that the texture issues were getting a lot worse. And so I would just say that this product is clearly not made for me, and that if you are a person that has really dry skin or older skin or both, as many of us do, that one probably wouldn't be the right one for you. But that some people do find this one to be very appealing, and I think that they just have much oilier skin, and that their real goal is to have a foundation that's going to give them more coverage and stay in place. And then the last product that we have is a matte version of the Complexion Rescue. And so this one is pretty much exactly the same as the regular Complexion Rescue in terms of the ingredients that I see, except that this one has kaolin clay in it. And so if you have an issue with oil on your face that you would like to have it be absorbing, then I do think that this one has the potential of working for you. And so this one comes in 20 shades, And what they are saying about it is that the #1 tinted moisturizer in the US is now in an oil-free natural matte finish. Shake well for blurred, even skin, perfect for oily and combination skin. And they claim that it should be lasting for up to 12 hours in terms of oil control. And so for me, I do feel like this looked quite dry on my skin as soon as I put it on. And I do think that a lot of this is collecting in the lines on my face. And so again, I don't think this is a good product for me. I think that the tinted moisturizer that is the regular Complexion Rescue, that one is actually quite a nice formula for me. And this one is exactly the opposite of what I need. But if you are someone that is younger and that has oilier skin and that doesn't have the concerns that I do about the foundation collecting in wrinkles or other fine lines or other texture, then this one would be one to consider, and I would suggest possibly trying that out. And like the regular Complexion Rescue, this is more like a light finish that you can build up to something that's approaching medium, but I don't think that you can probably get much more coverage than that or even full medium coverage from it. And then finally, I have a grade sheet in terms of how each of these SPF foundations that I discussed in this video performed on my own dry and mature and sensitive skin. And of course, how much different people like different foundations does vary a lot based on their own needs and wants. And so certainly these ratings are not going to be totally relevant for everyone. So thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. And if there are any SPF foundations that you have tried that I have mentioned in this video or that I haven't mentioned, then I would really appreciate it if you let me know what your experiences are in the comments section. And then in addition, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, then I hope you will do that. And if you like this video, then please do hit like because that helps the algorithm. And Coco and I do love you very much, and so thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.